Welcome to WagerTalk TV. I'm Kelly Stewart, at Kelly in Vegas on Twitter. Joined by Mr. Covers, at Teddy_Covers. And I forget the guy's name on the end.
The first college football video is here.
Know.
Yes.
Ralph Michaels, Mr. College Football himself, at Cal Sports LV, but I was told we were going to change his Twitter name. I don't know. There was like
no, Twitter's not changing.
This crazy email thread I got the other day.
Prez was like, you're double promoting yourself being Cal Sports and Ralph Michaels.
Okay.
So when people go to WagerTalk now, it used to be Cal Sports. It just says Ralph Michaels.
Oh.
Twitter's staying the same.
Okay, got it.
So no problem. But
okay.
Prez was, you're double branding yourself. So you're now Ralph Michaels, but at Cal Sports LV. That's what I said. But, you know, Prez talks, we listen.
There you go. All right. I'm so excited for this Saturday. I already bet this game. We talked about in another video betting numbers early. I took the 7.5 with Miami and got a little bit of maybe inside information. It hasn't dropped yet that maybe a few key players for Florida might be suspended. In anticipation, I took the 7.5, hoping maybe I could come back on the other side of Florida. Haven't got quite that information I want yet, but sitting stagnant at 7, neutral field, Orlando, Florida. Teddy, talk to me about the Gators versus the Canes.
How neutral is this field?
Well, seeing Miami draws 12,000 and Florida draws 80,000.
Yeah, this is a Gators crowd, so don't be fooled for a minute by neutral field.
I gave him 1.5.
Okay.
And I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Although, when you grade out the personnel for these two teams, they both have top 20 talent. It's not like Miami doesn't have talent. Miami does have a new coaching staff, obviously new systems, and a freshman quarterback in Jaron Williams. And a lot of people look at a Frost QB and go, maybe. There's knee-jerks in the marketplace. With Williams, the reports are that he's a guy that's not going to make as many mistakes as Martell, who's replacing.
Okay.
That's why we've seen some of the undermoney in this ballgame. But from all reports, this kid can play. And just because he's a Frost making his first start against an elite defense, I'm not necessarily going to say you have to bet against Miami just for that reason.
Ralph?
I'm going to expound on two of Teddy's points. Number one, the quarterback coach and the OC for Miami is Dan Enos, the former head coach at Central Michigan, who, by the way, was the quarterback coach the last 2 years at Bama and had some guy Tua that he coached that ended up being pretty good as a freshman, and that's the same type of quarterback he's using here. That's why he won the job over Tate Martell.
Okay.
It's Dan Enos with the Tua mold. He wants the dual runner more, and he does it. So it's not like this guy's pulling strings out of his hat. He did a pretty good job at Alabama training Tua to get where he was. So with that being said, when you're talking about, you know, I just want to take 1 minute because I had this game power rated at 7, and so I had it right at the number. But you talked about value in two top 20 teams, and should a team really be a 7-point dog? I want people to look at it another way as well. Go back to last year. Florida was 10-3 plus 83 yards per game. Miami was plus 80 yards per game, almost identical, although they went 7-6. Florida last year had 19 returning starters. Miami had 14. This year, they're even. So that gives an edge to Miami when you're comparing those two. Now, they didn't play each other, so we can't compare a line from last year, but look at like opponents. Miami was laying 3.5 to LSU in a neutral setting, and Florida was at home against LSU plus 2.5. That means Miami was the better team last year. Florida State, Miami was laying 14 at home. Florida was laying 7 at Florida State, so basically even. So you have two teams that were almost even, with Florida having more returning starters. This year the returning starters are even, with the stats being even, with the teams being even. So I think there's too much of an edge to the SEC team here with that 7-point line.
I'm going to do the flip side here. Teddy, we talked about in another video how sometimes when there's a lot of hype surrounding a certain team, that maybe they're going to lose that value in the marketplace. I've heard a lot of people say that Florida is going to give Georgia a run for their money in the SEC East. Is this a Florida team that maybe is a little overhyped coming into the season?
Honestly, at this stage, we don't know.
Okay.
Because we haven't seen this year's Gators team play. From an on-paper perspective, Florida looks like a team that could challenge Georgia in the SEC East. And the best teams in the SEC are capable of winning national titles or playing for a national title, as we see every year. That still doesn't mean they're going to be able to blow out Miami, even if they are that good.
I'm going to say again, they had 19 returning starters last year. That puts you at an elite number that he had. You know, you do have the first-year head coach, but you don't have change in systems because, remember, Manny Diaz was there. He was the DC. He's the one that started the turnover chain. My concern, again, and I lean with the under as well for this reason, not only do you have a freshman quarterback, but you have a true freshman left tackle and a redshirt freshman right tackle against the Florida front seven. And I think they're going to have a very conservative game plan with that young front in front of them. I think Miami last year was, at top of my head, a number 120 out of 130 teams in plays per game. They slowed the pace, 63 points per game. As long as Miami doesn't get blown out early and get behind by a couple touchdowns, they will be an option type pace, slowing this game down, huddling, running down the clock to the last few seconds. And if the game is close, it'll be an under.
All right, guys, $2 Tuesday. Every single Tuesday, you get the hottest handicappers. Best bet for just $2 at both WagerTalk and our sister site, sportsmemo.com.